Okay, welcome. Here we are, another episode of KUDEN Radio, the podcast for us, right? Concerned warrior protectors. And I don't care if that makes up martial artists, self-defense people, survivors, or just people that, I don't know, taking on the responsibility and accountability to make sure that those in their lives that need support and protection and all that are taken care of. Okay. Anyway, so during this episode, what I thought I'd take a look at is one of these aspects of warriorship that is that's one of those uncomfortable truths, right? And what I mean by that is it's kind of like gravity, right? You don't have to like it, you don't even have to believe in it, but if you're not paying attention, you trip over a crack on the sidewalk, whatever, right? Um, it's going to have an effect on you, right? So anyway, we're gonna be dancing all over the place today, focusing on three specific kind of areas. I'm going to hone in on the warrior realm, on the mandala, and we're talking about some different core principles that, again, right, you don't have to like it, right? But again, if we're going to hone in on warriorship and what it's always meant to be a warrior, then we have to get our head out of the clouds, or the, I don't know, the things that make us comfortable, right? We think we can do this thing because, I don't know, modern society has convinced us that we can, right? Because I just have to want it, right? People, as long as they're not mean to me and whatever, right? I deserve it because I exist, right? Anyway, so we're going to dive into this, and I don't know, we'll see how many people we keep on the show. It's not like I'm trying to drive people away, right? But part of this is a vetting process, so we'll see what happens. Anyway, we'll talk about it more when we get back. Question is this: how are self-defense and success-minded people like us, concerned citizens worried about protecting ourselves, our loved ones, and the things we care about from the monsters we know exist in the world? How do we train in a way that gives us the skills, knowledge, and understanding we need without becoming paranoid fighters or killers ourselves, and yet still allows us to be the hero protector the world needs us to be? That's the question, and this podcast will give you the answers. My name is Jeffrey Miller, and welcome to KUDEN Radio, real training for real people in a real world. Real training for real people in a real world. Welcome. James, let's start off by seeing who we have on. Well, I'll play Miss Marcia for those of you who are old enough to know what the hell I'm talking about. Although I don't look like a Marcia or a Miss. I don't care what anybody says. So maybe James has this quizzical. There he is.
Nobody signed in yet.
What's that? Nobody signed in? Oh, all right.
Yet.
Well, the numbers are climbing, but all right. So we'll check back in with them. Anyway, all right. So uncomfortable truths, right? There are lots of uncomfortable truths, and I was lucky enough to have teachers that pointed these things out. And for me, they were very uncomfortable, right? And here's an uncomfortable truth for a lot of folks that like to use this phrase: Sensei, you don't understand, right? And you have XYZ, you're in this position, whatever. Okay. Well, the uncomfortable truth is that's bullshit. Yes, I am where I am, but that's not where I started. Okay. I started out poor. I started out in a family where we should have been comfortable middle class, but I had a stepfather that spent his money on whatever the hell he wanted, and the bills didn't get paid, and the rent didn't get paid, and shit like that. And here we are. Well, not here we are. There I was. Okay. Now, the me today, right? Because I rebelled against that. The me today knows that whatever decisions I make and however I decide to live, I'm sending my children very, very clear messages about how to be. So I think that's why, not all of them, right? Because they rebel too, right? I remember one time I was teaching a class. I had a student in my class a long time ago. He was a teenager. His name was Thad. I think Thad's like a body worker, maybe a shiatsu person or whatever in the Pacific Northwest, I think, if my ninja skills have tracked him down properly. Anyway, I remember we were doing this class and I was covering something on the mandala, and we were doing Ninpo philosophy, and he just like blurted out, man, like your kids have no idea how lucky they are, right, to be born into, this family, to have you as a dad. I mean, they're going to grow up in this dojo. They're surrounded by this stuff, right? The rest of us, like, it's a crapshoot, right? We trip over ourselves and fall into it and get lucky, or we don't know what we're looking at for how long, and then we discover this stuff, or we come in from the martial arts side and we're not into that spiritual woo woo bullshit, and then one day like a light switch flips in our head, and but then we've got all this catching up to do, right? And he was just ranting about how lucky my kids were, and I just smiled and said, yeah, I don't think so. And he didn't get it. And I said, they're growing up with this, right? Which means that it's going to be commonplace and every day. And we don't notice the value in things when it's around us. I mean, think about the last time you stopped, took a breath, and appreciated the element known as oxygen. You don't even fucking think about it, right? The air around you. Just like fish don't think about water. I mean, as far as I know, right? But we don't think about the things that are just right there in front of us. And this is we're going to really dive into this as 1/3 of what I've got planned tonight. As a matter of fact, for those of you on video, right, I'm going to try to make sense of these notes that I scribbled out for what I want to cover for this episode. But the point I made to Thad was, they're probably going to go off and try different things, because there's a whole bunch of psychology, right, that goes into all of this, right? That which is commonplace gets resented, right? People think that way about their family. They think that way about their country. They think that way about their culture's things, right? The traditions and things like that, right? Because, well, everything from the grass is always greener over the septic tank, or in the neighbor's yard, or whatever, to they hit a point where they start to develop their own beliefs about things, or they recognize that parents make mistakes and they're not these people with all the answers and stuff, and then that gets blown out of proportion and it goes to an extreme to where they're just these dumb adults, right? And so it's I wanted to balance things out for them. Maybe they would take it seriously, but like, I've got one of my own children. Okay. Now, if I count stepchildren as well, I've got 7 total. But of my own children, 4, right? I have one that's like all in on this stuff. Right. The rest of them, I planted seeds along the way, and sometimes they use the stuff whether they know it or not. I got 2, one of my own and a stepchild that they're always. It's not a bad thing that they're always going to be doing their own thing, but they just don't pay attention to the results that they're producing, and I don't think they care much. So either way, so hopefully Thad gets it now, but I don't know. But anyway, so I was I was introduced to these things. Now, I was drawn to this art, and I don't know, maybe this will resonate with you or not, but I was drawn to this art because life was a freaking challenge, right? Surrounded by violence, even in the home, all that, right? And I sought this out as a way to, one, protect myself, and two, to protect other people, which is a huge part of the warrior ideal. We all know that, right? But my teachers introduced me to these uncomfortable truths. And one, I use this even in the dojo's marketing. I'm going to use that term, right? Marketing or information packets, because I couldn't get away with it. I mean, well, I could have dropped it off and then not talked about it at all, as though it wasn't a requirement, right? But even on like new student packets, right? There are these terms that come right off the mandala, right? There's respect, there's discipline, there's knowledge, there's what else is in there? I'm not trying to remember the word that we use, but it has to do with discernment and probably understanding. And then there was this word, I put it on there, but there was a part of me that just resisted it at every turn, right? Because I didn't like it. Right? The word was sacrifice, right? Because sacrifice means, like, giving up. Yeah, sure does. Okay? But what are we doing? Okay? Which is really, I don't know, ironic, because while I didn't like that word, I had no problem with the Japanese term sutemi, which we use all the time, right? Sutemi. Sometimes it's used in place of, but I don't know that it's deeper. It's just deeper in a different way. From this concept of ukemi, right? Receiving body, which really points to the idea that you are so adaptable that no matter how much, if it doesn't kill you, no matter how much you're slamming into the floor, or you're taking a shot or whatever, you're able to adapt in a way that minimizes the amount of damage that's incurred, right? It's ukemi, receiving body. Most people just in the West just translate that as break falls. And while that's certainly a place to start, ukemi is done every time we receive a strike. Uke nagash, right? We understand that. But I'm not talking about that kind of ukemi. I'm talking about drifting with a shot that's going to land because you couldn't do anything about dealing with it before it landed. Being able to receive the ground when you're crashing and burning, and you couldn't do an official stylized ukemi, right? But this term sutemi does mean sacrifice, right? It's one of the words that it means. I'm not going to go into the etymology and whatnot of sutemi tonight, but sutemi, there's another term that I was introduced to, ryusuiki, right? But that's more about like going with the flow, and that's part of it, but it's not the same. Sutemi, the way I was introduced to that concept was in the context of, and we have this on our module 4 for those of you going through the program. Generally, we just call them sacrifice throws. Okay, so we have tachi nagare, yoko nagare, tachi nage, yoko nage. So you have there are these sitting and or side flows or throws. There's a throw called kuruma, which means wheel, which is also one of the words used for car, right? Which, I don't know, back when I was growing up and I was just little, right? People, the slang term for your car was got wheels, right? Which I thought was always funny. Anyway, so but there's this idea like, the sacrifice throw, which it sounds cool when you're learning it, right? Because they've got names and all that. Uh, and so, but when I first learned it, there was a disconnect because the throws, right? I'm doing this on purpose, right? The hell, what's up with sacrifice? And so the problem was I couldn't get my head away from the model, the basic technique for beginners. And it wasn't until I got into the intermediate levels and the advanced levels and the start position, while it could look similar, it was very different, right? We actually started from a screwed up, uncomfortable, out of whack position where like we're all jammed up. Okay. So the concept of stemi, sacrifice, right? When I first started translating it or thinking about it, right, what I thought about was, well, it looks like I'm giving up, but really I'm, right? So I was okay with sacrificing as long as somebody else thought that I was sacrificing or giving up. Meanwhile, right, I'm really kicking their ass. And it's not that it doesn't look like that sometimes, right? But what I came to understand was that Temi, at its core, is the concept of giving up a bad position for something better. Well, how the hell is like stumbling or somebody throwing you or whatever, and you just giving up and then you end up on the ground or whatever? How the hell is that better? Well, it's better because the reason I'm all jammed up is because I'm trying to do something in a position where it's screwed up. I'm holding on to something that isn't working. It's kind of like it's kind of like fighting to make a technique work, even though your partner is it's in the strong position, right? I'm trying to be stronger and I'm trying to break their strong position, but they already own that position. Okay. So what I'm going to do is just relax a little bit, let them take me off balance or let them move me, because now I can feel where they're taking me. I can feel the effect of gravity on me. I can feel where the space is, all those kind of things, right? So Sutemi is giving up a bad situation for something better. It's also giving up good for better. I don't use the term best because I don't think that best ever exists. Best is relative, based on any given moment. So I tend to not use best, right? But it's giving up something that's not serving you so that you can find the thing that will, right? And there's many layers to this, many levels to this. Okay. Um, so, uh, but it's this jamming up and it's this hardship that really kind of push things. Anyway, I'm going to come back to that. I've got three kind of paths or avenues or perspectives that we're going to look at this from, but and they all come off the mandala. So again, for those who believe that these are like, they're old stories or old, whatever, and they don't work today or whatever, you can't buy into Hatsumi Sensei's lessons and or well, I was about to say you can't cherry pick, or you can't buy into one thing over here, but when it gets personal, then you jump ship. But you know what, we're all adults, you can do whatever the hell you want. Okay. But you can't escape reality. You can't escape, right? And I'm not talking about, well, that's not my personal truth, that's not my personal reality. When people say that, they're not pointing to truth. You can use the word, but what they're pointing to is perspective. They're pointing to belief. right? They're pointing to somebody's view about the way things are, about who they are, what they are, how the world or the universe works, or whatever. Okay. So uh, while that's not an important concept within mikkyo, because we need to find, and that's all relative between, it's all not relative, it's all related to two extremes. One is conventional truth, which is all based on where you live, how you were raised, all kinds of things, right? These kind of reference points, and ultimate universal truth, right? And then the closer we are aligned to that thing, the smoother the ride's going to be, but also the greater the depth of experience. There's a whole bunch of things to this, right? In the last episode, I talked about a really, really core piece that I believe that most people didn't get when they were growing up. I know I didn't, right? When it came to choosing things, right? Making decisions. And I made a differentiation between the way, I'm going to make a broad stroke statement here, right? The way the poor and the middle class are presented with opportunities, like, you get a job, you don't be picky, you can't have your cake and eat it too, whatever, right? Just be happy you have a freaking job, right? Um, bills are paid, there's food on the table, and this is just your lot in life and whatever, as opposed to the way a different class operates and the way they teach their kids that, look, there's a certain requirement for whatever standard of living you want to be having, right? And so the first thing you need to know is what you need, right, to live at that level. And then the second thing that you do is you look around at all the opportunities that exist and identify those that will allow you to do that. And you exclude all the rest. That's the type of sacrifice. That means that person's never going to understand the experience or the enjoyment or the pain or whatever of, who knows, living as a grease monkey, working as a waiter, waitress, whatever. Okay. Oh well. Right. Um, yeah, but I mean, that's a sacrifice I'll make. Yeah, I know, but there's lots of sacrifices people don't make. And when it comes to doing things, they tend to forget that their belief system is part of the issue, part of the success formula, or the what's holding me back formula, right? So anyway, I got a couple of quotes for you. So for those who, I don't know, they want to cherry pick my teachings, but they're all in as long as Takamatsu Sensei or Hatsumi Sensei said it. Well, let's throw those out, shall we? Okay. Because I think based on people's belief system, those are harder for them to get around, right? And one of them, Takamatsu Sensei, I have one of his quotes from Hatsumi Sensei that he said, only those who truly have something to lose can understand what it means to be a warrior. Okay. Hatsumi Sensei, in his Essence of Ninjutsu, and you can look this up, it's in the first book that ever came out in English, Ninjutsu History and Tradition. It points to the idea that hardship is necessary. It's part and parcel to be a warrior, right? Because warriors handle conflict, right? The very kanji used to write bu or mu, that's in everything, right? It's martial, right? So bugeja, martial arts person, musha, right? Martial person, warrior, is made up of two lesser kanji. Well, they're not really lesser; they're just brought together this way. So there's sub kanji within the context of this bigger one, right? A lot of kanji are built this way, like the kanji for nin, right? We have blade, actually kisaki, so the dangerous part of the blade, and heart, right? So even though the enemy holds his blade at my heart, or in the original Chinese context, even though the enemy's blade is in my heart, I will persevere. I will endure. Right. Well, it's going to be difficult, Sensei. Yeah, I know. People, it's funny how naysayers or people who don't want to look at uh, uncomfortable truths will nitpick at the truth. Meanwhile, they want to be vague about the way they do things, and then are surprised or pissed off when that vagueness doesn't produce the specific results they're looking for, right? What would you call that? Specific vagueness or vague specificity, right? Anyway, I'm laughing. Sorry, I apologize. Anyway, so as a part of that essence of ninjutsu, this is not the whole thing, right? There's just a part in that, right? Born of the insight attained from repeated exposure to the very brink of life and death, right? This is what the benevolent heart of Ninpo is born out of, right? But it's the key to finding harmony, right? You don't do the comfort thing only to find, right? Now, those people that are just in hell, right? And every day is just a kick in the nuts, and it's all about survival. They're going to have a hard time too, right? But it's that hardship, right, that is really the key, because a warrior's job, right? We go back to that kanji, right? That kanji for boo, right? I don't know if you've ever just looked at kanji and decided you were going to write it out. And I know when I first started out with these things, I was like, okay, this is the kanji for boo. This is the kanji for nin. This is the kanji for kan. This is the kanji for, right? But it wasn't until I started looking into the etymology, the background, right? Where these things came from that gave them their meaning, that things really started to change. Right? Because the two kanji that make up the make up the greater kanji for boo or mu, right? One of them is very common, right? It means to cease or to stop. And when I say it's very common, it's the kanji and all these red triangle signs in Japan at intersections. It's the kanji that's on the stop sign. Okay, it means to stop or to cease. The other kanji is really old. It's not very common anymore, but it's still there. It looks like a castle abutment with arrows flying over it, and it means conflict. It means it can also point to let the arrows fly and things like that, right? So it's these freaking arrows flying up over this castle abutment, but its original meaning is conflict, right? And so when these things are brought together, right? I know we say boo, we say moo, we say warrior, we say, but it's painting a picture, just like Nin paints the picture. Perseverance, endurance is pulled out of these two kanji. That means that the working end of a freaking weapon that can kill you is poised over your heart, right? So how do you persevere? How do you endure, right? An alternate translation to the Nin kanji is patience, because sometimes you can't act in the moment. So I need to be patient and I need to wait for the right time. Okay. Well, that's the same with this bu or mu kanji. Okay. It points to the job of a warrior, right? To stop conflict, right? But how do I do that? Well, see, the warrior's job is to take over after bureaucrats and all these other peacekeepers or or peaceful people have tried to resolve something that's over their head, and you can't talk your way out of it. So the warrior's job is to restore peace. But how do they do that? Well, they have to stop that nonsense. Okay? They have to stop the conflict. They have to stop the aggression. They have to stop the evil, right? That's harming. That's doing harm. Right? Well, then by their very nature, they have to be adept at, and I don't know that comfortable is the right word, but they have to be okay in that kind of situation. Right? And in really bad situations. So as I was coming up through the ranks, one of my teachers said, I know how bad you think things are. Okay? But one, that's your perspective, and you're missing a whole lot of things that you have because you keep focusing on the money you don't have to do the things you want to do, but you're missing all the things you do have that, as long as you don't recognize them as assets, you're not going to go anywhere. But two, all of that hardship, you do things in training that other people are afraid of happening. But because you've been yelled and screamed at, you've been threatened, you've been beaten by loved ones, let alone the bullies at school and all that kind of stuff, right? You take this in stride, right? The benefit of having gone through the shit makes you more resilient and more able to withstand that shit than people that have had a comfortable life. It was necessary, right? And so if you could see that for what it is and use it, things would change drastically, right? Now, I also heard things that, again, these were uncomfortable truths that I didn't want to believe because, again, I focused on the money I didn't have, the opportunities I didn't have, the I wasn't born, with a silver spoon in my mouth, and I had the same I had the same perspective everybody else did, right? You don't understand, man. Like, you have this, and I don't have that. And you have this, and I don't have that, and you know what that made me? That made me hungry. That made me work harder than everybody else because it's easy when you have all that stuff, when you have all the resources, right? But again, you take it for granted. Just like my kids, they took the lessons for granted because that's just stuff dad does, right? So one of those other uncomfortable truths, Hatsumi Sensei said, every successful person has spent, I'm going to use this word sacrifice when I come back through this, has spent at least 3 times more in the way of time, effort, money, resources than unsuccessful people to get what they have. Now, people tend to highlight the spent part and then align that up with the money part or the resources part. But if we could think about the fact that when we spend something to get something, we have sacrificed that thing that we spend. I now no longer have that money. I no longer have that time. I no longer have that energy. Right? I no longer have that peace or that peace and quiet, whatever. Right? We've sacrificed, we've given up something for something that we perceived to have a higher value. Right? Now, I get it. We need food, we need to pay the rent or the mortgage or whatever. But why are we doing that? Well, because that house is more valuable than homelessness, right? And I live where I do because that's the best I can do with what I have. And if it's not the best I can do with what I have, then something else is going on. Okay? Next episode, I'm going to be talking about how to deal with haters. Right? And I know I've done other episodes on that topic, but a big part of next episode is going to be the challenge in doing things when one of those haters is me, not me hating you. I mean, the me, when you hate you, there's things about you don't like. Okay? Um, that's a hell of a climb. Anyway, so this idea of sacrifice, right? Giving up a bad position for something better. And it doesn't have to be like huge. It could just be small things. One of the points that I just made for the folks that are going through our module 3, this current rendition of it, right? Dominate and win. I think it was last week's lessons. Could have been this one's. I don't know. Anyway, was that everything that we're doing, whether we're trimming off like wind up movements, extraneous movements, whatever, right? What we're gaining with a lot of these things, it's not a lot. In the grand scheme of things, I mean, we're gaining microseconds every time we trim the fat off of a movement, or we don't wind up a shoulder to throw a punch, or we don't pull the fist back before we throw it again, whatever, right? Because these things happen very, very fast. We're gaining microseconds. But those microseconds build, right? So anything that I can do, right, from the way I use my eyes, right? One of the first lessons that my guys get in Mod 1 is now it typically would belong to the Seigan no Kamae, right? But I give it to people in Mod 1 with Shizen, right? Because that's how I got it. The science of it is in recognizing that your sense of sight, your eyes, are the only sense receptor that you have that has 2 neural pathways to the brain for processing, right? And so how you use your sight consciousness, right, can make a huge difference in reaction time, right? So, if I look straight at something, I'm looking at this person, or I'm looking at their fist, or whatever, and I'm watching for the punch, I'm watching the hand to move, I will actually be upwards of 250 times slower than I would be if I trained my eyes on something else. If I shifted my visual processor, right? Again, 2 neural pathways, right? Because if I look at something, I'm focusing on detail. Okay. So now your eyeballs always work the same way. So it's not about your eyes themselves, unless your eyes are affected, right? It's about your sight consciousness. And so if I'm, the sight itself, I mean, the eyeballs themselves, right? Light has to reflect off the thing that you're looking at and pass through the lens of your eye, through the iris, stimulate the retina, right? Which then converts those electromagnetic waves into electrical impulses, sends them along a nerve pathway to your brain. Those electrical impulses trigger an electrical storm that itself triggers a chemical reaction that itself anyway, long story, right? But if I'm looking at that thing, what ends up happening is the message goes to my sight center and then gets passed over to the neocortex to process it, to put a label on what I'm looking at. before a decision is made, right? The amygdala recognizes, okay, categorically, is that a threat or is that a nice thing or whatever, before it triggers a response to, to the hypothalamus to drop chemicals into the system. And I know I'm a geek. Either way, right? The more you know. Anyway, so if I'm using my eyes that way, it takes about 500 milliseconds for my brain to identify a potential threat and to trigger the response, right? The hypothalamus to drop things in to trigger muscle movement. 500 milliseconds. For those of you who can do the math, that's half a second. Okay. Can you make it shorter? Sure. If, however, I point my eyes straight ahead and I soften my vision to take in everything within my peripheral vision, like I'm sitting really close in a movie theater and I can't see the edges of the movie of the screen, right? So I'm just looking straight ahead, and everything is part of the same picture, right? So what's happening now, my sight consciousness, it's actually a different processor in the brain that's paying attention to shape and movement, not detail. Okay. Name and form is not a part of this. This is actually connected to the primitive section of my brain for fight or flight. And that's right back there where the sight processor is. Okay. So if I do that and movement, right? Something is coming toward me, or I'm walking on a forest path and I see something that, you know, looks like a snake. Now, I didn't say it was a snake, and I didn't say it was a gnarled branch or whatever, but that primitive part of my brain that is there for survival recognizes that as that could be, right? It triggers motor responses to move. The time, again, barring no mental problems, no problems with the eyes, no whatever, right? Um, no drug induced stupor, whatever. The time it takes for the impulse to go to the brain and the brain to trigger the muscles is 2 milliseconds. One of them is 500 milliseconds. This other one, simply by shifting the way I use my eyes, drops it to 2 milliseconds. You can't blink that fast. Okay. 2 milliseconds. That's 250 times faster. So I don't have to be faster muscularly than this guy that's in front of me. There's things that I can do that will naturally, automatically, by default, make me faster. But see, what I have to do is give up. And this is what happened. My teacher, one of the teacher at the time, taking me from second degree to third degree within that training model, not coming out of Japan. This particular training model with standards based on growth, that kind of thing, and written standards, not like, super subjective. Pay me $300, get a new Don rank. And I'm not knocking any of that stuff. It just, truth is truth, right? And so the idea was, and this is a part of our ranking system, which is why a lot of people don't like it. Right? They can go someplace else and get ranked faster. Okay. It's fine with me. That just tells me that they're all about rank and not about proficiency or the magic that this art brings. Anyway, so the idea was anybody willing to stick it out, learn what they needed to do, develop the skill set, and put in the time could make it to second degree black belt. Second degree black belt, as defined in the way we do things, as passed down from two of my predominant teachers coming up through the ranks, was or is being able to handle a single attacker on the street doing whatever the hell they want. And you can use Ninpo Taijutsu alone without falling back on anything else to protect yourself. Okay. So that's doable. But what they said was after that, all bets are off. And the reason that all bets were off had nothing to do with one's ability to learn or master kata, skill sets, or anything. It had to do with one's ability and willingness to let go of beliefs, understandings, or knowledge that was flawed or misunderstood or whatever, that about the way I was, like who I am, what I'm capable of, the way things work, universal truths, those kind of things, right? Um, it was dependent upon one's ability to let go of flawed knowledge, just whatever the beliefs were, right? So that they could then observe and understand and come to learn how things really work. I mean, think about this. How many of us were actually taught to be successful in whatever realm by people who were or are successful to the level that you want to be? I was told all kinds of shit about self-defense and stuff like that coming up through the rank, or not coming up through the ranks, growing up, right? By people who couldn't fight their way out of a fucking wet paper bag. I was told all kinds of things about what my lot in life was, what religion was all about, what what it meant to be somebody with money, or what it took to get money, or all kinds of things, right? I was taught the rules of money by people who were broke. I was taught, about church, whether to go or not, by people who, were not. They either went, but when they went, it was more for networking or because that's what you do. So it was early childhood indoctrination, or it was for what they could get out of it, right? And I don't mean spiritually, right? Or it was because of the fear of what other people will say if they don't. People who didn't go, right? All kinds of reasons, right? So it wasn't until I got around people that were highly successful that made it very, very clear that, you're going to have to cut through the bullshit and do differently, think differently, act differently, be differently, right? Be differently, be a different person, right? And it's okay if you don't want to do that. You just can't be here. Oh my God. You're kicking me out? No, but we're going to highly recommend that this is not the place for you because it's going to get harder from here. And if this is already unacceptable, you should probably find a place that is going to give you what you want. And there's a huge difference between getting what you want and getting what you need, right? Which is always what a good teacher does. Gives a student what they want so the student stays around long enough to get what they need, either by choice or in spite of themselves, right? It's hard to find those kind of teachers because most will either patronize you or just throw everything at you and then you leave. Anyway, all right. So anybody sign in at this point, James, before I transition over to leadership?
Trinity said hello.
Trinity. Is this
Yeah,
a Trinity that I know? this is my
indeed.
daughter.
And Mary Barnett said good evening.
Awesome.
And then Michael Gallagher's asked, but you're talking about sacrifice as an investment? Question.
Sacrifice is always an investment. Most people see sacrifice as giving up something and losing. Successful people don't see it that way. Everything's a sacrifice. I was actually going to mention this later on, but I'll just throw it out now. Everything's a choice. We have a finite number of hours in our day. We have a finite amount of money in our wallet. We have a finite amount of energy, resources, right? Human body's a battery. It's what we spend those things on that makes the difference. Okay. One of my mentors likes to make reference to like the difference between a global benefit and a local benefit, right? And global benefit is something bigger that affects a lot of things, right? Think about your dreams. Think about being a warrior. Think about those things that that you really want to be doing, right? Now, I'm talking about the thing that kicks in that comes from your innate enlightened nature, right? Your that heart of hearts that wants this thing before the bullshit filter kicks in and goes, yeah, I wish, or knowing my luck, or well, and convinces you that it's never going to happen. Okay. Well, one, that's not you talking anyway. And if it is, it's a you that was formed by all kinds of other people and situations that affected how we make decisions. Okay. But a global benefit is this big thing. Like if I have this, right, all the shit that I could do with it, okay, is just wow, boggles the mind, right? A local benefit is the thing that you get in the moment. Okay. So, uh, I watched Netflix instead of training. Not me, but I watched Netflix instead of training. Okay. What's the benefit? Well, I got to laugh at the movie or watch this show or whatever. Okay. So I got a momentary benefit, but it's unless that movie comes up or whatever in sidebar conversations with other people, or I talk about it for a week and then it fades from memory because I watch another one or whatever, it's not going to last very long. Right? It's just not. Okay. Hook up with somebody, 20 minutes, 2 hours, whatever your time limit is, right? That's your your benefit, right? Very different from getting together with somebody on common ground that has not only similar aspirations, because I believe that when the right people get together, they both have their own interests as well, which is what keeps them interesting as people. They don't sacrifice themselves for this one thing. That usually means one person's in control and the other person's going to eat dirt. They're going to convince themselves that this is okay. But this local thing, and this is where people go astray, right? Because that's the easier one, right? I'm getting gratification now. Right? One of the traits that all successful people have, right? And it can be developed. So this is not an on or off kind of thing. Like, well, I can't do that, right? Well, you can't do that now, right? A lot of people can't do freaking handsprings now, but that doesn't mean they can't learn how to do them, right? That's another thing that people have a problem with, right? They take a snapshot or they see a snapshot of who they are right now, and they project out into the future like they don't have the capability of changing. That well, I can't speak to that, but we all change. If nothing else, we're going to get older and we're going to die. So there's a motivator. But the one, again, there's many, right? But the one trait that all successful people have is a penance. No, not a penance. They have they have this ability to withstand or to choose delayed gratification. That means I'm willing to put in the time, effort, resources, pain, blood, sweat, tears, whatever now for that result later, which is going to produce more things, right? They want their cheeseburger now rather than the more nutritious meal later, right? Um, they want the decompression or whatever now, because you know how long I worked today, and you know how tired I am, and I'll just work out tomorrow. And then they realize that shit, it's been 5 years since I worked out or worked on my punches or whatever. Right. So yeah, it's an investment. Right? And that leads to this other thing that I'm going to talk about later, which is taking stock of our resources. Right. But before we do that, let me jump into this other thing. I'm going to borrow the mandala, right? So again, I don't know that I have a worksheet in front of me, but most of you have seen these things. If you have a piece of paper, if you're listening to a recording later, you can always just pause things. Grab yourself a piece of paper. You know what? Maybe I still have it from the previous episode. I grab this workbook. Ah, there it is. Look at that. Okay. So if you're on video, it's that pattern, right? That is the basic layout of the lower six or the lower 2/3 of the Kongo Kai mandala, the two mandala that you see hanging in my dojo. You've often seen them in different places. So this is a layout of a lot of these interactions and things like that. But let me just jot things out on here. For those of you who listen to audio only, what I have is a piece of paper with a giant circle on it. And then within that circle, I have 5 smaller circles. There's one in the middle, and then there's one at the 4 cardinal directions. Okay, so there's one in the middle, one to the left of it, one to the right of it, one to the top, one at the top, and one at the bottom, kind of laid out like a Roman cross kind of thing or a plus sign, but they're circles. Okay, and these are realms. Okay. So I'll hold this up again because I'm not doing a whiteboard Wednesday. So everybody kind of has the idea of where things are. And if this is not your jam, well, sacrifice your temporary discomfort while I lay this out for other people who it is their jam. I just find that if you have frameworks like this, then you don't have this vague, nebulous bullshit going on in your head, and you have no way of linking things together and understanding relationships and understanding how things go together, which if you don't have those things, it makes it really easy to get lost in all the details, lost in the forest, and then believing that everything is hopeless. But if you have a framework and you see the relationship to things, then you can work it out. It's kind of like having a freaking roadmap. Okay. If I don't have a roadmap and I'm going to hop in my car right now and I'm going to drive to California, all I know right now, well, that's a pretty big target, because if I just start driving west in about 3 weeks, well, I could probably do it in a week, but I'm curious, so I'll end up stopping off at different places. Okay. Assuming that I know which way is west, right? I'll end up in California unless I don't see the sign, in which case I keep fucking driving until I run into beach and an ocean, in which case I might have a good clue there. But if I don't know that California has an ocean on its western side and a desert on its eastern side, well, then whatever, right? But it's going to be a whole lot friggin' easier if I have a roadmap, right? And know where I'm starting from and I know where I'm going. And going to California, see, that's fucking vague. That's like people saying, I want a black belt in Ninjutsu. Well, shit. What does that mean when it comes to skills? What does that mean when it comes to skill proficiency? What's the difference between a Shodan, first degree black belt, and a 5th Dan? Or a 10th Dan? Or a Daishihan? See, vagueness begets vagueness. Right? First thing we need to sacrifice is describing things the way everybody else describes things. I did the Monday Q&A call or class with the folks that are going through the Mod 3, the Dominate and Win program today, right before we jumped on with this thing, and it was highly tailored to them because no one came in for the 5 o'clock dojo class, right? None of the locals came in for class. Okay. But that gave us a chance to dive into some of these lessons that are specific to what they're working on last week and starting this week. And so we worked on shuffling and stepping footwork. We worked on eliminating extra movement that's not necessary, getting the head to float along at an even keel, no bouncing, no swaying, trying to find those areas within the footwork or movement where like the body hangs up on itself, because that's all going to be homework, right? But at the end, I always ask, what'd you learn? What was your big aha moment? What was your takeaway? Whatever. And one of the guys pointed out that it was the detail that a lot of people would write off as being, you're being anal, you're being too specific, right? That's not necessary. Except that, one, his personality, like mine, thrives on that kind of stuff, right? Because it could be any one of those things, any one of those little details that makes my movement just a little bit faster than his and gets my punch to land before he can get one off or whatever, right? And it could be the thing that wins it for me. But if I didn't have it, well, then I'm going to have to work harder, because not having the thing that makes me faster means that I have to be faster with my muscles. But what if I end up having to deal with somebody who's already fast because of the way they use their muscles? They already own that type of conventional speed. Or I'm dealing with somebody who's bigger and they already own the strength position. I can't be stronger than somebody who's physically, muscularly stronger than me. I can't be faster than somebody who is younger and owns that conventional speed thing. If they're faster than me, they're faster than me. But does that mean that I can't be, does that mean I can't be faster by doing things differently, by not relying on conventional muscular speed? See, that was all part of that above second dan. All bets are off unless you make some shifts and you actually study how things actually work. Okay. That's why professionals and people that are wise or enlightened or whatever can get so much stuff done and not break a sweat and get it done in less time and all that kind of stuff. People who don't understand it will say that they're cheating the system, right? They're corrupt, they're whatever. When the problem here is that there's a difference in understanding. It's not about cheating unless your idea of a good solid day's work equals a hard day's work, because both these people could be out of breath and exhausted at the end of the day. And one person could have gotten a week's worth of work done in a day. And that's why they're exhausted. Where the other person got a day's worth of work done in a day, and it felt like a hard day's work. Okay? The feeling's the same, but how much was produced? Okay. One person's using leverage and a whole bunch of other principles. The other person's just doing what they think they should be doing, and they're doing it the way everybody else does it. So anyway, all right. So on this layout on the mandala, right, the elements that a lot of you guys know, earth, water, fire, wind, void, right? They're just laid out differently. They're not in a stupa, that statue kind of thing. That's like a pillar ish kind of thing. So earth is over here, water's down here, fire's up here, wind's over here, void's over here. But again, for those watching or listening, sorry, on audio only, earth is to to the left of center, voids in the center, winds to the right of it, waters at the bottom, fires at the top. Okay, so but these are not just the elements, right? These all represent a realm of power and influence. Okay, so all the way over here in this wind realm, this is the realm of the warrior. This is the realm of well, I'll break this down in a minute, right? It's the realm of the warrior. The realm of the warrior is exactly opposite across, right? So the right hand side, that circle is the realm of the warrior. On the left hand side, that's the realm of the commander, the king, or whatever, right? So you got somebody over here that's all about rules and control and those kind of things. Over here on the wind realm, this warrior, this is the realm of sacrifice, right? The earth realm is about standing for something, right? Value, whatever, right? That's where if I were going to make my own mandala and put things over there, I would put king, queen, president, that kind of thing. I would put a flag. I would put a diamond or some kind of gem, right? Things that we understand, right? They have a position of power, value. They inspire, they motivate, that kind of thing, right? Okay? Unless you're oppositional personality disorder, or you're just whatever, right? And whatever's the thing that people rally around. Fuck that, I'm not doing it. Well, if that's you, then there's already a mismatch, right? On the mandala, it's called an exit. That doesn't mean you have to get off. That means that you're never going to you can't get to places that you need to get to, because your orientation to those things that you want is off. You're at a completely different part of the mandala. Now, that's that carefree, I'm going to do whatever the hell I want. That's also a part of the wind realm as well. But there's no anchoring over there, okay? Which is why all these realms, we work on them so that we empower that center, right? That void kind of thing. Now, I don't mean void as in empty. That's actually the ability to be any one of these in the moment, but it's also like it's kind of a zero state, right? Where I'm not fixed on any, but I have the ability and the reference points of all of them. Anyway, so but the wind, if the earth realm is to stand for something, right? To be uh, to be in command. It's the realm of the leader, the commander, the role model, that kind of thing, right? There is a centric kind of thing there, right? That you're the guy that shows up, or the girl that shows up with gifts for people, or the wisdom, or whatever, right? The wind realm, it's not just sacrifice; it's also selfless. Okay, this is the person who fights and is willing to die for something greater than themselves. Nonconformist and antisocial and uh, oppositional personality and whatever, right? Ultimately, it's all about them. Okay, they think that they're so busy rebelling against anything that is traditional, entrenched, conventional, and we all have some of these aspects to us, but the realm of the warrior is about sacrificing for something greater. Now, while that sounds like, right, we're soldier, firefighter, cop, whatever, that those people are certainly within that realm. Okay, that's there's also the mercenary over there too. Like, if you pay me, whatever your cause is, that'll be my cause too. Just make sure I get paid. Okay. But that realm over there is it doesn't have to be for somebody else's thing, right? And this is where I talked about the global benefit versus the local benefit, right? It's also sacrificing momentary pleasures, momentary distractions, whatever, for that long-term benefit, right? One of my mentors likes to say, he actually has this little exercise. You can take your time doing it, but we're going to do it very, very quickly here, right? I'm just going to give you the quote. Make a list of everything that you're not willing to give up for your dreams. And that list is what everyone who beats you, everyone who gets what you want, right, is doing to beat you. Make a list of the things you're not willing to give up. Okay. And that's what highly successful people are doing. They're giving up those things. Okay. But it's not forever, because once you hit your goal and things are comfortable, you're in a better place and whatnot, well, then you've got time to kick back and, whatever. Okay. So, but people think that, they're going to get someplace without, I don't know, James, I don't know that he keeps track of this stuff, but how many weekends have I given up? Right. Right? I don't typically do weekends. I do little pockets of time. Right. Because one, I need to recharge. Two, I need to maintain my relationship with my kids, grandkids, my wife, that kind of thing. But I don't take off weekends. Go on a vacation every once in a while, but even then, laptop goes with me, because you know what? Shit needs to be done. And I can't afford to, in time, goal attainment, or money, or whatever, I can't afford to take off 4 days, 5 days, 2 weeks, whatever. Do I go on cruises those longs, or those duration? Of course. Right? My wife and I do a weekend getaway. But after she goes to sleep at night, the laptop comes out. Okay? And I'm not watching Netflix. Okay? I lost 72 hours over the past couple of days because I thought I had a software issue on my computer, and videos were due to be out on Friday for week 1 personal development, that module within the Dominate and Win program. Because I shot all these lessons, imported the video, and it was just jacked. Well, that caused frustration. So, but I spent my weekend, I spent the next almost 72 hours running antivirus, anti-malware, all kinds of stuff on my computer. Sometimes it was going to take hours for it to run. So that's when I, multitask, right? Go hang out with the grandson for a little while, go do some stuff with the wife for a while, come back, check things, run something else, whatever. I can't use the computer for the rest of the time that it's doing that. Grinding a little bit of my molars to dust, kind of thing, right? Because not getting other shit done, right? Because there are a whole bunch of extra things that needed to be done didn't get done either. So what was supposed to be done before, I had a problem earlier in the week with something else too, that I ended up getting caught up on, and it was a computer issue. But all the way through, deleted programs off the computer, deleted video editing, reinstalled video editing software, whatever. Was I aggravated? Yeah. Was I pissed off at certain points? Yeah. Okay. Was I exhausted at certain points? Yeah. But you know what? That didn't change anything about the fact that stuff needed to be done. And you know what? I'm really thankful that I have a lot of students that understand that shit happens, but it's really taxing when I also know that some don't, and promises were made, right? But it turned out to be even though even though the video played on all these other players, my video software just would not accept it. And it wasn't until I found through extra research this little glitchy thing, ran the video through something else, got it in. So last night, what, James, 9:30, something like that, our time, was when the personal development videos from Friday finally went up. And then the videos that were due for today, I try to get that stuff done and up by somewhere between 5 and before KUDEN starts. Once I solved that problem, they got done. But now I'm playing catch up because I lost 72 hours. Right? And I don't have that. I don't have that trait that says, well, you can always do it tomorrow. I'm 61 years old. I don't have too many more tomorrows. Right? And even if I'm going to die at 80, do the math. So it is what it is, right? Anyway, so the wind realm on the mandala is the warrior's realm. Okay. It is the realm of sacrifice from this one perspective, right? You do what you do for something that is bigger than you, is more important than you. It's called sacrifice for a reason. Okay. So it's not, in this context, it's not the Sutemi giving up bad for better, right? It's working your ass off because the kids need to eat. It's working your ass off because your wife deserves a vacation, or your husband, or whatever, right? It's, burning the midnight oil because you need to pass that test, because you're working on a degree, and whatever, right? So, but within the same realm, right? The same realm also has three other ways to look at it, right? One is, it is the realm of all accomplishing action. I'll come back to that in a minute. All accomplishing action. Okay. That means that whatever needs to be done, you can do it. Right? It is also the realm of skillful means. Okay. And it is also the hero's realm. Okay. We've already talked about that. The one who sacrifices for the greater good, that sacrifices for so that others are okay, whatever. Okay. So if we think about the all accomplishing action realm, okay, something needs to be done, right? Gets done. Okay. So, but this, to be able to have this realm, we have to understand the other ones, because the water realm represents knowledge, knowing that which can be known. There's a constant quest to know more, to learn more. James and I were joking earlier because we were talking about this thing, and I finally got this thing solved and all that. And the joke that keeps coming up for us is, because I don't have gazillion dollars to farm out like a computer problem. I was even telling my mother-in-law that today when she asked me how business was going, and I shared this last 72 hours kind of thing, and she goes, "Wasn't there somebody you could just have take care of that problem?" I don't have the extra financial resources to toss in that direction and still get other things done that need to be done. So I need to figure it out, right? I need to do it myself. On top of that, even if I did have the money, I don't have the wherewithal to have my computer in the workshop of some tech for days until they get around to getting shit done. Because in all honesty, and this is the same this is not just a me thing, this is an everybody thing. Nobody is going to care about your goals, the things you need to get done, and the benefits and all that kind of stuff more than you. Ever. Right? Everybody's going to be less than that. Now think about whatever your baseline is. Hopefully it's not, well, good enough, okay? But even if it is, everybody else is going to be behind that. Okay? So there's knowledge. The earth realm represents value, but it also represents command and leadership, like that firm resolve. Okay. This is going to happen. Okay. It's confidence. It's being the rock, right? This is what's necessary when the haters come out, because they will. Okay. People, and I feel sad for them. People actually wake up in the morning, and if they don't do it right away, it happens within the first hour. They start thinking about what they're going to be offended about today, who they're going to troll online so they can leave shitty ass comments to, or whatever, right? I mean, that's their lot in life. Okay. They actually, that's part of their attention. Interesting. Okay. We'll talk about some of them next week, but one of the things that I use 90% of the time, at least, and it's not that they only irritate me every once in a while, and sometimes a couple of these people actually piss me off, but you know what? I don't have time for them. And so my number one defense mechanism, my number one weapon for them is to ignore them. Okay. Because they can only yell at a rock for so long. Hopefully they'll get tired and go somewhere else. Okay. But even so, right, all they're leaving are comments, right? You don't have a fight with one person. Okay. And if I respond to them, it just empowers them. So I don't give attention to those kind of people, but that's necessary. Okay. It's this focus, this ability to stand fast. Okay. Because you can't accomplish shit if you're distracted and all over the place. All right. And then the fire realm represents energy and expression and discernment. Right. Discernment is knowing one thing from another, but it's the ability to prioritize. Okay. Because some people get a lot done. One of my responses anymore for people to tell me they don't have enough time, I tell them to go to an app on their phone or a part of their phone that reports on how much time they spent online or how much time they spent scrolling or on any given app or whatever. There's a whole shit ton of time, because unless you're running a business and that's what you were doing, or you're researching a paper or whatever, then how much of that time was spent actually working on the dreams and stuff we say that we don't have time to work on, or making more money because we say we don't have enough money to do the things we want to do, or, right? So, I mean, it's right there. The cool thing about technology is we can do so much. The bad part about technology is it keeps track of all the shit that you do. There it is. All you have to do is keep it away from everybody else, except that I'm also in the security realm, and people have no idea how available their information is. So, but we have to have those things, right? We have to have those things, and we have to have something to aim for, right? Void realm is the ability to think and communicate. It's the thing that holds the vision, right? Our why, that kind of thing. Otherwise, we're just a hamster on a wheel. We're doing a bunch of shit, but we're not going anywhere. We're just running around. It's like kids frolicking in one of those ball pits, right? Anyway, so all accomplishing action is, but it's not just doing things. It's doing that which is necessary. And sometimes what's necessary is to sacrifice even things that are pleasurable, right? Because I need the time, effort, money, resources, energy, focus, whatever that those things are taking. I need that over here. Okay. I like shows on Netflix just like everybody else. But I also need getting shit done. Right? So anyway, all accomplishing means. Skillful means, right, has more to do with creativity. Taking things that you already have and using them in a way that produces the results that you need to produce, even if it's a little bit at a time. Remember earlier I was talking about one of the principles within this mod 3, this dominate and win program, is that every time we learn how to do something a little more smoothly, we lose the wind up, we lose the tells, we learn to move more directly, we learn to use our hips, knees, and ankles in a better coordinated way, whatever, right? We steal or we gain microseconds, right? When I say microseconds, it could be tiny little slivers. It could be a quarter of a second, half a second, whatever. And for a lot of people, are like, well, that's not much. Yeah. The people who win fast draw shooting contests, okay, win by microseconds. Race things, NASCAR, drag races, all those kind of things. They don't win by like seconds or minutes, right? They win by microseconds. Right? And so anything that we can do to shave off a little time, to leverage things in a different way, right, the better. Okay. So, but the point, the gist of skillful means is figuring it out. Right. It's having a mind and it's almost like a puzzle solving focus. So between all accomplishing action and skillful means, what's really being pointed to here is, well, I'm going to do this from our focus, right? Our theme, right? This sacrifice thing. Well, we have to give up because it doesn't serve us, is to stop focusing on the problem or all the reasons why we can't. Because collectively, people online, when we have discussions or they send me an email or whatever, right? Well, the problem is, or see, I don't have this, that they collectively, they give me easily 100 reasons why they can't. And I don't mean one person does it, but I'm sure if I left one person alone who really wanted, it was just focused on all the reasons that they can't, they'd come up with at least a dozen, if not a couple of dozen, if not close to 100. But collectively across the board, people give me easily 100 reasons why they can't. You know what they need to be able to do it? Just one. They just need one reason to do it. Okay. They give me a whole list of all the reasons why they can't, but they only need one reason for why they can. Right. And that's they want to bad enough. Right. Because anything that we want to do bad enough, we figure it out. Right. My friends are going to this Halloween thing and it's like to die for, but it's like $120 a ticket. I'll be damned if they don't figure out how to get that, to come up with that $120 so they can go to that cool thing. But they can't come up with $10 to put into this app that you can get. You can look these things up, that you can invest in Netflix or whatever for like a 24-hour period and turn that $10 into $60 or whatever. Keep doing that over and over and over again. Can have a couple of grand by the end of the month. Well, I didn't know that existed. I know, but how much did it take to do a Google search to figure out, or to do a Google search for how do I make money online easily? Well, I don't want to fall for, okay, I get it. That's where discernment comes in. Okay? But everybody has the power. I mean, think about the supercomputer that you're on right now. And I don't care if it's a laptop, a tablet, shit, your cell phone. Holy crap. Cell phone has more power than my laptop has. Right? The computers which took up rooms that landed people on the moon in the 60s couldn't do 1%. I'll give it 10%, but it was way less than that. Couldn't do 1% of what your cell phone can do. You have access to all of the knowledge accumulated that's ever been discovered. I find it ironic that people will look up cheat codes to win a video game or get to the next level, but they can't look up how do I, with less? How do I, make money if I'm broke? How do I? There's all kinds of answers out there. Okay? So what we have to give up is the focus on, because this is sacrificing too. We have to give up the focus on what we believe are the reasons that it can't be done. And we need to look at what we have. We need to develop, one of my teachers used to use this as an analogy. Most people focus on what they don't have that they think they need to produce the results or to get to the next level or whatever. What they really need is a MacGyver or James Bond mindset. Most people know James Bond was. Some of you may not know who MacGyver was, but it's this mindset that no matter what you have, you can figure out how to use it to get to the next level or get the next bit, right? Most people are not lacking time, right? And there's this adage in business. And I know I keep borrowing this kind of thing, and I know everybody's here for Ninjutsu, but principles are principles. In business, especially for solopreneurs, for people like me or small businesses and whatnot that don't have a huge team or don't have the money or the resources for whatever, right? It comes down to a time or money equation. Okay. Let's say that I need to market the dojo. I need to get the word out that these classes exist and I teach this stuff and all that, right? I really only have two possible assets: money or time. If I have money, that would really help because I could buy advertising on Facebook or YouTube or whatever and leverage things. And that's going to happen faster because I can get to more people faster, right? If I have the money, that frees up time. But if I don't have the money, I have to spend the time. I have to sacrifice the time that I would be doing all this other stuff. Well, that's more pleasurable. Yeah, I know. But you know what? I'm going to have a lot more pleasure 6 months from now when I have 20 more students in my dojo, paying tuition, keeping the lights on, and frees up money so that I'm not worrying about whether the electric bill is paid, or if I can put in my fair share for my wife and I to go on vacation, whatever, right? So if I have the time, or if I have the money, that I can throw that at advertising, that frees up my time to do other things, right? But if I don't have the money, then I have to spend time social posting, writing articles, producing videos, doing another KUDEN podcast, whatever, right? So this is part of promoting what I have. It's value for value, right? pretty sure I'm not doing anything more than mentioning something every once in a while, like, oh, by the way, if you'd like the life discovery or life purpose discovery process or whatever, right? I'm not harping on those kind of things. This isn't one of those typical webinars that you're going to be on for 20 minutes getting some tidbits, and then I'm going to spend the other hour and a half trying to sell you on a program. No, but this is part of the, believe it or not, this is part of the promotional mix. Okay. But what am I sacrificing? Every Monday night, I sacrifice 2 hours away from other things I could be doing to enroll students, 2 hours away from my wife, 2 hours away. Okay. Now, am I lamenting about it? No, no. I like doing this, but I got to tell you, the stuff leading up to it, like making all the graphics and wiring up all the emails and stuff, even though they're templated, to make sure they're in and they go out on time, all the stuff that currently is not being done that's on my to-do list because I just had computer problems all week, right? That I could be doing to leverage each and every episode better to get more eyeballs on it after it's over, right? Because there's way more people in the world that are not on a convenient time zone to watch this live than there are that are in those convenient time zones, right? But right, there's a whole lot of stuff in the background, right, that I don't like so much. But you know what? It has nothing to do with liking it. Whereas all accomplishing action, that which is necessary. Right? How do I promote KUDEN more so that we get more people on, so we get more subscribers and all that? Skillful means figure it out. Right? And then there's the hero's realm, right? That warrior thing, right? Service to a greater good, service to others, service to a future me that I want to be, that's living the dream. So I'm sacrificing my todays for a much better tomorrow. And ultimately, you have to figure it out. I can't remember the neuropsychologist that said this, and I bumped into this last week. There's a neuropsychologist that was talking about people that want to end themselves. I'm not going to use the term because if I do it, the algorithms are going to like filter shit out. But you'll all know what I'm talking about, right? Okay. And so their thinking process is there's nothing to live for. There's, life isn't giving me whatever and all these kind of things, right? But those of us who want to help them need to ask them the right questions, because you can't tell them anything because they've already decided. Just like people that decide they want this thing over here, they want to be a Ninjutsu black belt, but they can't because whatever, right? My job isn't to change your mind. Well, my job isn't to do that kind of changing your mind, right? It's not to tell you that's bullshit, you can, whatever, okay? Now, I tell lots of stories, but to illustrate that this poor kid did it, right? That means I also sacrificed 7 years of my life to military service. Was I a kill a commie for mommy kind of person growing? No. Was I a big fan of like James, what do you call him, John Wayne movies, and I couldn't wait till I could, do that kind? No. My parents couldn't afford to put me through college. My shortcut to either getting an education academically or on the job training that was sufficient that when I got out, I was hireable in realms that produced the money that was necessary for me to live at a minimum level that I was aiming for. Yeah. I had other options, but this was the one that was the uh, the most doable, and it was the fastest. I would say with the least amount of wear and tear on me as possible, but given the other ones and the length of time it would have taken to get, and figure it out, being in the environment that I was in, being surrounded by the friends that I had chosen that did not think in the direction that I needed to go, right? Um, yeah. So guess what? I traded 7 years of my life to this cause, which now at this point in my life, I would go back and do it again in a heartbeat and with a different mindset because I did a lot of good in spite of myself. But the 17-year-old who signed up, it was for college and on the job training and a guaranteed paycheck. Okay. Regardless of what I thought about anything else that was going on, tripped over myself and came out a whole different person. Anyway, so, but here's this thing. I'm going to share another quote with you from one of my, there was a martial arts teacher, a Ninjutsu teacher who used this. And I think, well, actually two of them, Shoshi Malmstrom and Sensei Hoban, Jack Hoban. Of course, they were both military veterans as well. But then there was another mentor as well. But here was a uncomfortable truth, punch in the gut, punch in the throat, whatever. And that's that every day you're not working on your better you, on your skills, on whatever, okay, is another day that you're depriving those who depend on you of those skills and powers to help make their lives safer, better, more comfortable. How's that for a kick in the nuts? Huh? Like I said, I was lucky to have the teachers that I have, but there were plenty of uncomfortable truths. Okay. So when it comes to that figuring out things, right? I understand being poor. I understand not having a lot. I'm going to come back to finishing that one in a second. Let me get back to that neuropsychologist. The question that we need to figure out how to pose to these folks is a question that gets them to realize that even though they think life sucks, and even though they think life isn't giving them what they need, and even though they think they can't, whatever, that doesn't change the fact that life expects things from them. So the question is, do they want the easy way? And you'll find out very, very quickly, right? Do they want the easy way out because they're not getting what they want? Or do they want the easy way out because they don't want the responsibility and accountability, which are warrior traits as well? Okay. So again, poor, not having a lot of resources. And when I say resources, okay, so poor, not just money, poor as in, let's go around the mandala, lacking in knowledge, like in ways to produce results. Like if I don't know that there are certain options and ways to do things, like if I didn't know, and again, we didn't have the internet back in the late 70s, early to mid 80s and all that kind of stuff, right? So I didn't have the ability, the ease of ability to look up things like how do I make extra money online quickly and easily? Okay. So there was no search engine called Google that was going to return answers like fill out surveys for these people. You can watch YouTube videos and they'll pay you for it. All kinds of stuff, right? So, well, shit, I don't even have to fill out a freaking job application, right? And I could do it at my own time, at my own pace, and whatever is convenient for my schedule. Interesting, right? So just because, anyway, let's go back to missing knowledge and information. So I go find it. I ask people who can already do it. I ask Google, right? You can go on Chat GPT. GPT, is that what it is? Chat GPT. Yeah. And type in, if you were broke, if you were a 20 something, 30 something, 40 something, fill in your whatever, right? And you were broke and you needed to make money quickly. What are 10 things? Like, give me a list of 10 things that you would do to go from broke to $1,000 a month that required little time, effort, or skill sets. And ChatGPT will lay out a list of 10 things. Okay. One upside for AI before they completely take over. Anyway, aside for a bittersweet kind of thing, right? I was also lacking confidence, Earth Realm, confidence, firm resolve, that kind of thing, because, you know, the abuse and all kinds of things had me in a state of self-doubt and all those kind of things, right? The discernment, knowing good options from bad options, right? Knowing that delayed gratification, suspending the need for momentary gratification, including laziness and laying around because I don't feel like it. I don't feel motivated. Nobody gives a shit. Those kind of things, right? And you didn't have any of those things, right? So, but skillful means. So was poor in all those aspects, but life still required that I figure it out, right? I'd still figure out how to do what I needed to do with what I had if I was going to get closer to where I wanted to be. Not having those things did not change the reality that I still had to figure it out, because there were things that were necessary. People think that they need money to buy their way there. Long before anybody needs money to pay for tuition at a dojo or to sign up for an online course or whatever, they need to have a firm resolve that they're going to do what they need to do. Money to sign up for a program with a teacher doesn't change an inability to stay focused and practice consistently, which can be done using free YouTube videos. Well, training a dojo with a teacher is better. Not if you're a lazy student. Not if you're not going to practice. You're going to feel good. You're going to have a dopamine response to having signed up and being a member of a dojo and having a teacher. But when that dopamine response wanes, just like people that get into a relationship because it's like, you know, they're getting that chemical response and all that kind of stuff. But as soon as that wanes, and it should shift to there's a different love center, right? Where you got to get stuff done, right? You got to care for each other and take care of each other's needs and plan, and right. And becomes life and whatever, right? Long-term, short-term lust, puppy love, whatever, different center of the brain, different chemicals than long-term commitment and partnership and that kind of stuff, right? Just like when those people get over that and they start looking for the new dopamine response, right? Called a hookup, right? It's the same thing in a dojo. It's the same thing on a job. It's the same thing parent with kids. It's the same, right? There's no difference, right? So there's lots of resources that we have. I don't have money. Okay. You got time? When was the last time you contacted a teacher and said, hey, I bet you have things to do. Like I'm online anyway. Would you be open to the possibility of, me doing your social posting or when you pop up an article or whatever, I'll make sure it ends up on all of your other platforms or whatever, so it gets out there. Or, I'll, once a week, right? I'll pick up the flyers that you have, and if you have a list, right? If not, I've generated a list, hint, hint, nudge, nudge, right? Because I don't expect the teacher to teach me all this stuff and give me free lessons, and they're going to do all the work as well. All I need to do is go and hang them up on a bulletin board. Okay. Do you have a list? No, I never thought about doing that. Oh, you know what? I made a list of 50 local bulletin boards that I'm willing to hang up flyers for you once a week. Any way that I could, save some money on tuition or barter or whatever, the time for that. Well, who's willing to do that? I don't know. You're not going to know until you make 10 calls, 20 calls, 50 calls or whatever to you, because you don't need to know how many teachers are not going to take you up on that. You need to find the one who says yes. This is not a one and done kind of thing. Right? This is a figure it out. Just because you don't have what you think you need, until you take stock of what you have and find a person who's willing to trade off for that, or figuring out how to at least get to the next level, right? On a private's pay, I didn't have the money to fly halfway around the freaking world and train with the only guy in the Western Hemisphere that had a dojo. And, I need to pay for the seminar. I need to pay for meals. I need to get a hotel room. I need to get transportation back and forth to the dojo, whatever. How the fuck am I going to do that? Right? Research. Found out about space available on Air Force aircraft that were flying back and forth from Germany to the US. For $10 a seat, dress up in my Class A's and freeze my ass off in a cargo compartment, sitting in the same strap seats for 14 fucking hours that paratroopers sit in. They're going to jump out of the plane, right? And I'm going to fly back, and then I'm going to get a discounted plane ticket from Philadelphia, because I'm getting a shuttle or whatever from Dover Air Force Base to Philadelphia Airport, and then for $29, which is what it was then, right? I'm going to get a flight, because military discount, to Dayton, Ohio, and then I'm going to take a bus or a cab or whatever to the hotel. And I walked to Germantown, got picked up by a cop the first time. It was like a replay of fucking First Blood, because all the locals who were farmers saw this guy walk. Anyway, it was like a flashback. Anyway, and so, how did I come up with the money? Right? Because the bills still need to be paid. My family need to be okay, because they were living with me in Germany. Right? I looked around and found loans that there were loan companies that would give the loan, and they would fill out the paper. I would sign the paperwork and whatnot that got submitted to the military, and then payroll deduction for that much per month instead of needing that much in one chunk, right? It was a payment plan, came out, right? It was a mild dip, but not enough to even be noticed, right? And did that, paid it off in a couple of months. Next seminar came around. Once I learned how to do that, and then first seminar, I made friends who were in the same kind of boat. And sometimes we all pitched in and teamed up. One guy drove, and so I only needed to hook up with these guys when I got into town. And sometimes, like during the good weather and whatnot, we camped at a local campground, and then he drove us back and forth for training. Other times, we kicked in and shared hotel room expenses, whatever. We figured it out. Right? We're trying to be ninja, for God's sake. This is exactly what ninja do. Right? Do what's necessary because it's necessary, and if not, well, you die. Right? Skillful means figure it out. Okay, and the mission is more important than failure. Okay? But there's more to be sacrificed than, like, I don't have anything to sacrifice, man. I'm poor. Okay, yeah. How about first thing we're going to jettison is the bullshit defeatist attitude. Because it's not that there's no ways. There's either I don't know one, but I need to figure it out, or there's I don't want to find one because I like being a victim. And I don't think anybody on this that's listening to the show likes that. Because if you did, you wouldn't be listening to my bullshit every week. Right? So anyway, what have I missed on here before we go to questions? Let's see. Global benefit. So what all that stuff comes down to is everything's a trade-off, right? What are you willing to sacrifice to free up the time, the resources, the energy, whatever, right? To get something done to move to the next thing, right? I'm going to stop surfing YouTube shorts and watching Hatsumi videos because I need to figure out where the opportunities are online to make extra money to do this thing. And then I'm going to sacrifice time so I can fill out the surveys, or I can watch very specific YouTube videos that might require a little survey to be answered because they're getting customer input or whatever. But either way, I'm getting fucking paid to do something I do all the time anyway, or whatever, right? But everything's a trade-off. I'm doing one of two things. I'm trading off my dream because I have to do these things that are taking the extra time, money, effort, whatever. Or I'm trading off those things because the dream's more important. I have turned down really high paying fucking jobs coming up through my life because they were going to interfere with my training. I worked in a cannery to pay the bills because the job was more flexible because I was going to be at the Shadows of Vegan Ninja Festival every fucking year. And there were other seminars that I needed a flexible position that paid enough to pay the bills and set money aside for the training. And then I established a training group because I knew more than everybody else in the area. So I established a training group, a little bit, a couple of dollars every class or whatever for tuition that went into my training. What will people think? What else are they going to do? Right? So, but here's the thing. All of us, by conventional standards, have been trained to accept mediocrity. You know, being average like everybody else. I think most people that think they want success are they stop at just like everybody else, but a little better, because they can feel good about being, I'm at least better than everybody else. That's why people pass you really, really fast on the road, get to the next stop sign with that smug ass look. Yeah, I know I had to stop, but I'm in front of you. What kind of bullshit thinking process is that? Still had to drive to get there. Go back to that James Bond thing. One of my teachers asked one time, when you're eking out an existence to get by, to get to the seminars and all that, that's one thing. But that's not the way ninja operate. Right? He said, can you imagine watching a James Bond movie and James Bond is sent to get Blofeld or whoever the evil guy is, right? And he shows up a week late where Blofeld was when he got dispatched, and he crawls out of the back of a Greyhound bus, his tuxedo's all rumpled and shit like that. And okay. If he has to in the beginning, I guess, but let's see. I think that's it, right? It's all my scribbled notes anyway. All right, James, questions, comments, complaints? What are you willing to give to get what you want? And stop thinking that you don't have anything. Because if you don't have money, you have time. Because nobody's working 24/7. And if you are, and you're still poor, holy shit. Right? Get them to pay you more than 37 cents a time. That's an inside joke. But Sammy, they all gave me 37 cents. Sorry.
Dave Zone just said we have been here from the start, must not have been showing up.
Huh.
And he said, I missed the access to the plane hops.
Oh, yeah. Holy shit. That was awesome. Yes. That reminds me, too. Didn't I do an episode at some point where I said, how much shit do you have laying around? Like, you want to make more money, right? Have a fucking yard sale. I mean, you can do yard sales on Facebook. Just in my local area to help promote the school, I am signed up with at least a dozen yard sale or barter or whatever kind of things. And it's a martial arts school, so they let me post stuff because I'm not selling Mary Kay and all that kind of stuff. But you don't even have to fucking have a physical yard sale. You can take a picture, post the damn thing, put a price tag on it, right? And so there's a guy named Gary Vaynerchuk. Not only is he a guru for entrepreneurs to help them be more successful, but this guy, like he starts a business and within 6 months it's fucking highly profitable, right? Inherited his dad's wine business. That's how he got started. He is now in the whole for an extra side thing, just for fun, right? He makes a ton of money by going around to yard sales and things like that and buying like boxes of things for dirt cheap and then taking pictures and stuff and posting the stuff online and making money selling other people's junk. He bought a box of whatever, right, for $5 and then looks up the prices of what these things are going for on eBay and stuff like that, right? Looks it up, drops it by $1 or $2, right? Or whatever it is, right? A certain percentage, and posts it up and sells the stuff. Yeah, he has to like mail the stuff out and all these extra things, but all this freaking money's coming in, right? And so he has this thing for it. You want to make extra money? Round up all the shit that you're not using and you could get rid of, right? And sell that. And when you run out of your own shit, call up your family members and offer to do the same thing for them. You'll come and clean up their house, or they'll pack all the stuff up and you'll haul it away to your house where you'll take fucking pictures of everything and sell their shit. And when you run out of family members to do that with, call your friends and do it for them, right? You're going to haul their shit away for free and you're going to turn it into money, right? That's one way. And the only people are going to turn that down. Well, I'm not going to be fucking bagging up all kinds of shit and taking it off. Really? Really? You can make a couple of grand a month and you're not, well, then that person is probably waiting for Aunt Minnie to die and will them $1 million. Except they probably don't have an Aunt Minnie who has $1 million and them in their will. So again, are we focused on truth and are we focused on, look, and we're not telling you to make a goddamn career out of it, but if that boosted you to the next level, that you could do the next piece and the next piece and the next, and that's the thing that got you started. But again, here's that thing. Make a list of all the things you won't do to achieve your dream. And everybody else that's achieving it, the reason they're achieving it is because they're doing everything on your won't do list. Not you, because you guys are all enlightened. Right? And that goes for, like, when this time rolls around, then I'm going to. What if you took whatever that deadline was when you were going to do that thing and divided by 3 and just move that deadline forward? Because the rule of time management is things will take whatever amount of time you assign to them plus 20%. Because most people don't account for all the shit that'll get in the way. Right? And be careful with procrastination. Because science has already proven that people procrastinate. It's not the logical reasons they give for it, right? Well, that's going to give me enough time, and they think they're being logical, right? It's actually an emotion-based reason. If I move the deadline out there, I don't have to think about it, and I don't have to feel the pressure of not getting it done until then. And then what happens when they get closer and they're not going to attain it by then? They just move the deadline. All they're doing is giving themselves a dopamine feel-good response, right? The people who get shit done put a lot of pressure on themselves. That's why it gets done. To relieve the pressure, you have to get it done. Otherwise, it's just going to come back. And then you not only do you not have the thing that you didn't get done, but you have all the other shit that still needs to get done on its normal time. So it sounds backwards, but what we need to sacrifice, what we need to jettison, is the same bullshit reasoning we inherited from other people who weren't getting shit done either. Because just like my concern was my kids inheriting the wrong mindset. I don't want them to inherit money. I know that would be helpful for them, but strong men produce easy times, and easy times produce weak people, and weak people produce tough times. So I don't want them to inherit that. I want them to inherit that way of thinking. Figure it out. Responsibility, accountability. It doesn't have to feel good, but it still needs to get done. Set your sights high. So even if you trip over yourself and you fail, how much farther ahead are you, right? Like I ask my students at the dojo, the youth students, every once in a while, what do you want to be when you grow up? Let's say a student says lawyer. What are you going to be if you fail? What? Because nobody asks them. They stop at that thing. Now they just think that that's easy. What are you going to be if you fail at being a lawyer? Burger flipper? I don't know. Salesman? I don't know. Okay. Legal clerk? I don't know. Either way, you're not making the same amount of money that a lawyer's going to make. And then I look at the student and I say, what is the highest position in this country that you could hold as a lawyer? I don't mean like I'm a lawyer, so I'm going to run for president or whatever. As a lawyer, as a legal professional, what is the highest position in this country? It is United States Supreme Court Justice. But you know what? There's only 9 of them. So what are your chances of making it? But if I aim for that and I fail, what am I going to be? Way more than just a freaking lawyer. I could be a superior court judge. I could be a federal district judge. I could all kinds of things, right? But if I aim for the pinnacle and I don't make it, I'm way farther up the fucking mountain than if I just aimed for. Right? I'm old. I'm injured. I know. I get it. Life sucks. Embrace the suck. What can you do with what you have? And every day that you're waiting for the best time, you're not living the dream, and you're depriving anybody, and even those of you who are alone. I don't have anybody that has a okay. Yeah. So great. That stranger that is being attacked, and you just happen to be in the area. Whatever. It's just talking about warriorship. And warriors, by and large, protect more strangers than they do loved ones. It's not because they don't care about their loved ones. It's just there's more strangers in the world than the people that you know. You don't know who will need you. And if you don't have the skills needed to protect them, make sure things are okay, so whatever it is, when you need it, because they're in pain, you're going to feel like shit. I know a lot of you that are regulars on here. You're going to feel like shit. And if you think not having and that victim mentality feels like shit, shame and guilt kick in. Anyway. All right. What else do we have? I'm at the end of James's day. James works hard.
Nothing else has come in.
Nothing else came in? All right.
No,
All right. Fair enough. Well, anyway, I appreciate all of you. I do. I have more dates coming out here. I got to get dates on the schedule for our fall ninja camp, our upcoming Daikomyo Sai in January 2025. And we've got some other things we're going to be getting on there as well. I added somebody else to my business and planning team, Erskine Harris. He is a second-degree black belt under me. He's been around this art for a long time. And he is now director of student engagement at the academy. But he's also helping me. A part of that is in helping me stay on track with getting seminars and training programs and all that going. So we've got some of the shooting seminars coming up, wilderness survival stuff, sword, I think, right? Always a fan favorite, right? As well as some meditation, those kind of things. So the Goshin program is running its course. I think we've got like 2 more classes with that. And then we have another program that will be coming up that is it's called the Sadhana of the 13 Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, but it is a practice that's used in Tendai Mikkyo along with the Goshin, but it actually predates the Taizokai and Kokokai mandala, and it's these 13 reference points that actually map out the path from the moment that things are kind of triggered and there's curiosity and whatnot, all the way blows right past full enlightenment to actually giving back, right? Becoming a teacher and giving back, and it's a cool little thing. So that'll be the next one coming up on that side. So anyway, that's it. That's the last little blurb you get from me. All right. Nothing else? No?
No, sir.
All right. Well, maybe Dave saw other people. We were here. You didn't see us. Sorry. I apologize. Goddamn technology. It's great when it works, right? It's great when it works. And I'm glad that it works because, like, I'm talking to people different states and different countries and all that these days, that when I first started out, if you weren't in my local neighborhood, I had no idea. Okay. Because I couldn't afford to take out television advertising or advertising in Black Belt magazine and all that stuff, right? But I figured it out. All right, that's it. We're going to go ahead and wrap this up. I will talk to everybody again next time on KUDEN. Get more of KUDEN Radio. Subscribe through your favorite podcasting site or join our clan of serious modern warriors at onlineninjaacademy.com.